We are live. First ever live on our channel. Let's see how this goes. It could be a disaster. We could get canceled and thrown off the internet. We'll find out. I'm Cody Newberry. With me, Thomas Scully.
Well,
Thomas, how
Ben?
are you doing? How are you doing?
Well, we're all right. The Red Sox have still not lost in 2023. We are undefeated in 2023. I expect us to
Yeah.
stay that way throughout November 4th.
Mm. You're a little bit more. You watch some games. You're a little bit more optimistic of this team than I am at this point because I looked and I was like, we are. We're 7-0. We've drawn 3 times, but we're 7-0. And then I looked. The Royals are 10-2. So I don't think the season means anything. I don't think it means anything at all.
But
But we're
it means that our system is consistent. The minor leagues are going to be pretty consistent this year. So
that
if people get
sure.
injured, we have reliable quality people that we can bring up.
Yes. No, don't get me wrong. I'm loving our team. I'm a lot more optimistic than I was going into this year than the media, everybody told me to basically be. You know what I mean? They kind of told us to not look forward to the future. It's going to be a little bit rough for us. We're not going to have fun. But I think it shows the Christian Vasquez trade overall, I think, is going to be a massive win for us in the long run. I think we have this year. I don't think people are saying like losing Evaldi and Bogarts, but I think like I've said it before, I'll say it again. 2021, we were we're 2 wins away from the World Series, way ahead of schedule. And I think I text you back then and said, "In Heim we trust." And then Heim ruined our trust. Well, so some of us, and now I think he's gaining it back again. Welcome to Over the Wall. If you saw our first 5 episodes, we kind of like switched gears a little bit on that. One, it was a lot of filming, a lot of separation to like get these going. Some people actually viewed them. It was nice. But then I realized talking baseball, John Boyce basically does this, so I don't want to just completely rip them off and just go with it. So we're going to kind of do what people do is tier list. We're going to kind of break down our season, and then me and Scully will still have our rankings and MVP and Cy Young prediction episode before the season starts. But we're just going to do a couple of these tier lists once a week leading up to baseball season. If you were looking for
No matter how many shows we attempt to rip off, I will always be the biggest Angels hater out there. There will never be a bigger Angels hater than this guy right here. So
yeah, we'll talk about that.
We cannot manufacture.
We'll talk about that in the season. I can't wait to hopefully prove you wrong this season. Again, if you didn't watch our first few episodes, we are doing a live contest all year long on bets that we're going to place against each other. Loser has to watch a Yankee highlight video. I will say this: if this is the first time going to view your channel, if you're watching this on replay, we are Red Sox fans. We are going to be as unbiased as possible, which is going to be hard. If you're a Yankees fan, I expect you to come in here and yell down our throats when we lose. And I don't expect anything but anger and the most venom possible towards your team. Every other team, kind of not my scale. We're gonna first start. This is an interesting one I found. I'm kind of interested where Scully's gonna rank and if we can group decide on this. This season also we'll be doing live streams. We're gonna try to plan on a couple. We will be trying to be live for Yankees, Red Sox. I think the first series. That's one of our main plans is because that'll be something to watch together. Hopefully,
And we do want to also plan on live tweeting games as well. As you saw a couple days ago, Red Sox Phillies, we live tweeted that. That was a lot of fun. Being able to just do a live written commentary of what we saw. 15-3, 15 runs being scored, so there was a lot to talk about. A lot of optimism was fueled by just that game alone. But hopefully before the end of spring training, we can do a couple more of those just to get a gauge of how the team looks and what the roster is going to look like come April.
Yes. Our Twitter handle is Over the Wall Pod. Follow us on there. We will be live tweeting games, especially regular season. If we're not live streaming, one of us or both of us will be on the account, just hammering our thoughts out. It's kind of, I bet Scully, it was 15-3. I bet it was at least a good therapy session, but it was like a good one because it was 15-3. But when we're down like 11-0 in the game, we'll still be tweeting. But it might be a little bit less.
And that's usually when I start drinking, and then I probably need to stay off the account.
That's probably true. So yeah, follow us on that account. Yeah, but we will definitely be active in all games this season. We're gonna try to go through other games, but again, we are Red Sox fans, so it will be centered a little bit on those because if the Red Sox play the same time as like the Angels and Mariners, I probably am going to pay attention to the Red Sox game a little bit more. But just to top it off before we swap into our thing, in baseball news, the Red Sox, the first one to break the shift rules, kind of, with putting our left fielder in right field for Joey Gallo, which I thought was funny. It got trending on Twitter that get rid of Fenway because it's the only stadium in baseball that could technically run that shift without a left fielder because the shortstops can just play the ball off the wall when it has to be. So I kind of liked it. I kind of thought it was funny. I thought it was very interesting. If you play those slanted, again, you get rid of Fenway, I'll riot at the end of the day. We'll talk about that because we're doing a stadium tier list and then we're doing a power rankings. And where it all ranks. I think Fenway is by far the best stadium in sports. I don't care how it was built. I don't care how it was, but playing and watching a game in that 81 games of the year. I get to have a giant smile on my face because it is playing in a museum. It is no other crowd. It is the best stadium in baseball. But I thought it was funny. Pitch clock, we've had a 20-second strikeout. We've had Max Scherzer just bullying players with the pitch clock because like they can only step out one time and then he can just hold the ball, or as soon as they step back in he can just launch it as soon as he sees eyes. I just think it's crazy. I think it's going to make this game a really interesting. The steal attempts are way up. I think baseball is about to become crazy out there, and I'm kind of excited.
It's about to become more of a mental game because every batter approaches the plate differently. Every pitcher approaches the mound differently. Everyone has a different routine. So if you're out there, if you're a pitcher, you need to be memorizing the starting nine and their techniques because now you only have 20 seconds. You can't take extra time, and if you're a batter, you have to study these pitchers beforehand. And I'm sure they do anyway, but it's going to have to be even more emphasis on their routine, how they approach, and as the season goes on, how long it normally takes them within those 20 seconds to be ready to pitch. So there's going to be several points in the season where the pitch clock is going to be a major factor in how a team's season is developing. You're probably gonna have teams that are suffering because of it, because they have players they have a lot of older players who weren't in the minors last year who didn't get to experience this, versus some younger teams who I could see having greater success because a lot of those guys in the minors last year are now up in the majors in 2023 and are experiencing the same pitch clock and the same adjustments as they faced last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've already seen it. Like Wheeler doesn't like it. Scherzer loves it. I've always been the fact is like Sale was always a quick pitch. Like he always gets the ball ready to go. Doesn't like all the step out stuff. So it's exciting for Sale. But yeah, we're gonna see a bunch of different mental factors playing into this game. Baseball is more like It's going to be more of a mental game where it has been a while. And I think it was interesting. A pitch clock has kind of always been in the rule books, but no one ever enforced it. Like
No.
there was a rule book that says you have to pitch within the time, but it just got laxed. And one batter stepped out, then all the batters stepped out. And again, as a Red Sox fan, I hated when JD did it every at bat. And he basically trained every hitter to do it every at bat. And it just drove me crazy because his at bats would take, long every time. And a Red Sox Yankee game could last like 4 hours when it was just like, guys, like, let's go. Like, this doesn't need to happen. So, overall, I'm excited to see where baseball goes this season. Again, I'm kind of excited for shorter games, if you want my honest opinion. Like, they're on a weekday, they're a chore sometimes, especially a big game, especially West Coast games. Being a Red Sox fan, they're some of the worst games ever because they don't start till 9 my time, 10 East Coast.
I
So
mean,
you're
I would
sitting,
love it if I could throw on fucking Giants Dodgers and starts at 10, ends at 12:15, 12:30. I'd be more than okay with that, rather than having to wait until 1:30 in the morning to see how the Padres blow it another game.
The only rule that I will never be okay with, it will never change my mind. I don't care. I mean, maybe after like 2 innings, but the ghost runner on second, I hate the ghost runner on second. I will always hate the ghost
I
runner on
think
second.
Ghost Runner on seconds. It should only be implemented in the 13th inning. Let 3 innings of extra play go by, and if in the 13th it still hasn't done anything, then you put the Ghost Runner. But putting the Ghost Runner on automatically in the 10th,
I mean, it's basic baseball. If the first team fails, then the second team it's a bunt over, and then it's a sack fly, and the game's over. And that's not baseball. Will never be. If you want to make it interesting, put the runner on first. You get a runner on first, because if the runner's on first, then you
pitch,
can't
2
just
outs.
bunt. Yeah,
You get
I mean,
one pitch, 2 outs.
yeah. So I think it'd be better, but that's my only one. Okay, we're gonna get started with our first thing today. We're gonna do tiers list. This one's basically stadiums. I thought it was really interesting to go with Scully. This is gonna be from the perspective of because we haven't technically been to all the ballparks in the country, but what one ranks higher where we like to see our team overall play. Um, so the first one that we're going to talk about, if you see one on there that you want to talk about first, go for it. But I'm going to drop one automatically. And it's this horrible, horrible garbage of a stadium, Tropicana Field.
Yeah, you have
I
no argument there. I think from anybody, it is
I hate that stadium. That
it,
stadium is an abomination, and it is a house full of horrors. My team can never. If I have a 10-run lead in that
horrors or
stadium,
horrors.
if I have a 10-run lead in that stadium, it's like I have a negative 4-run lead. It doesn't matter. We're going to lose. We throw the ball around. There's catwalks that count for different home run, like different
There's
values.
like the different levels of catwalks for like if it's a
And
double, it's a home run, it's an out.
it's insanity. And then if it hits a certain one, you have to play it wherever it hits. It is asinine. This stadium is the worst stadium. Please rebuild. Like your fans hate it. They don't even show up to it. I
Well,
hate
because
that stadium.
it's in St. Petersburg. It's not in Tampa. It's in St. Petersburg. And if you've ever been to Tampa and you've ever driven through Tampa, you know that the two areas don't really conflate together. If you're going to actually build a successful franchise, you need to have it actually in Tampa and not St. Petersburg, where fans are going to drive to.
Yeah, it is by far the worst. I hate it every time we play. And as a Red Sox fan, the only thing about balanced scheduling this year, I don't have to deal with it as much. So by far the worst. Rebuild it, make it something else. And if I ever see a catwalk again, oh, but I will let Scully pick the next one of what
Um,
stadium, and then we can discuss where it goes. Do you have a problem with it? And please rebuild.
No,
The
of course not.
Tropicana Field. Okay,
No.
thank you.
I mean,
Okay,
don't even rebuild, just tear it down.
I agree.
Tear it down.
Just move to
Um,
Montreal.
yeah. Well, they want to split it between Tampa and Montreal.
Well, half the games I don't have to play in Tropicana.
Let's do the one that I live closest to. Let's do SunTrust Park. It's now called Truist Park. I have an interesting view on this. I would put it towards it's close, uh,
Okay.
because it's one of the more modern stadiums, and it's very nice. There's really not a bad seat in the house. The amenities are state of the art. It's just what keeps it from being top tier is just it's just very sterile. There are times where you're sitting, you're looking around, and it just doesn't feel like a traditional ballpark. It feels it's like modern architecture, but for baseball. It just doesn't feel right 100% of the time, but it's very pretty to look at. There's numerous amenities around like inside the ballpark. There's a zip line for kids. There's pitching and batting cages. There's like 100 different food vendors from like a bunch of different places around Atlanta. Um, but I will say the Battery, which is like the little town square apart from the ballpark, is beautiful. I think if you're building a new stadium in your city, that's what you need to model your area after. It is one of the best multi-purpose spaces around a ballpark I have ever seen.
So it's close for you. I like the stadium from a viewing perspective. Haven't been there, but I like it from a view. I like the chop house. I like the
Yeah,
interesting. I think the one thing that modern fans do, I saw that Red Sox are in installing the LED lights. I hate the flash. I hate when somebody hits a home run and it does the lights. I know why. I get it. I like a traditional just firework. I don't need
yeah,
like the
because
flashing of the lights.
Turner Field, which is where the Braves used to play, did fireworks after every home run. No flashing lights, none of it, just basic fireworks, and it was great. This one, it's like if you have epilepsy, start digging your grave because
Yeah,
you are not going to make it.
yeah,
One,
it's rough. Um,
especially with Austin
uh,
Riley on your team. There's no way.
okay. So my next stadium that I want to pick for again, we already have one that's going to automatically be where it's at, and we agree on that. But I'm going to
And
challenge
let's
one.
no, okay.
Go ahead.
No, no, I
Do
was
you
gonna
want to
say
just put it there?
if we're in agreement, let's just already put it there.
Yeah, Fenway's best of the best. I mean, it may not be the best viewing from like fans' perspective at times, but has a monster. Like the different rules that play into the factor of it under the lights, it's one of the most beautiful stadiums out there. Um, a home run over the monster will is like the best home run. There's only one stadium. There's only one stadium. It doesn't rank higher, but it's close to a home run over the monster, and we'll get to that later.
Mhm.
But absolutely love the Green Monster. I love everything about my stadium. It is. I love the play off the walls. I love how awkward it is in the triangle and the like garage door in center field. Like I love to see a go. And nothing's better as a Red Sox fan to see an outfielder not know how to play the stadium get played by the stadium. It is by far some of the even my Jaron Duran last year got played by Fenway like
Yeah.
in the worst possible way possible, a 28-run game against us. That
Yeah, I
stadium, if
thought we
you're
agreed
not
to
ready
only
for,
talk about that.
if that stadium, if you do not show it respect, it will chew you up and spit it you out. And I think it's the hardest right field to play in baseball, um, because of the how massive that right field corner is, and then how close to that wall you have to play. It's beautiful.
The only player I've ever seen do a masterful job of controlling that right field was Mookie Betts. He owned that entire area during
I
his
thought we
tenure.
weren't. I thought we were going to talk about it. Okay.
Sorry.
Uh,
I should have mentioned trigger warning before then.
okay. So, but the stadium I want to bring up and I want to challenge for another one that's in the best of best, and where we have it ranked. So if it's close, we're gonna battle between the one before it. I want the stadium up in the best of the best. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to convince Scully, but I'll put it it's close. But I think Citizen Bank is the look, the everything about it. It just screams ballpark,
Yeah.
and I wish we always look at the diagram of like if we did east like regional based divisions instead of divisions now, and
Mhm.
we're like the Yankees, the Mets, and the Phillies would kind of be in that game for us. If I got to play our team to play in Citizen Bank more, I think it is by far the stadium that I have. Playoffs this year were so much fun because it was at the
Yeah.
bank. Plus, if you think of name alone, the bank is up there in the names for ballparks.
Yeah, it's a beautiful stadium to watch a game on TV with. It's one of those that it just looks symmetrical. It looks like it's balanced on both sides. I think I it's very aesthetically pleasing, especially in the playoffs when everyone's dressed in red and white. It it balances out the colors really well. That's something I look for in a ballpark, because if you have a good color scheme and the ballpark matches it, automatically it's way better to look at than like just a horrendous mixture of colors.
I agree. So, can it be in best of the best, or is it close?
I would put it close. I'll put it above SunTrust or Truist.
Okay, I'll at least give you that one. Okay.
'Cause, like, best like, I don't wanna start handing out best of the best right away. Like,
Well,
best of the best is
I
reserved.
you gotta pick the one you want, and I picked
It's
that one.
reserved for a special few.
Okay, we'll see how we go. Okay. Um, your next selection.
Let's do let's do Camden Yards.
Okay.
I love this stadium. I really
Okay.
do. I it's great. It's great to watch on TV. What we just said about the color scheme, when everyone's dressed up in the orange and black, the brick wall in right field, it kind of matches the color scheme of the team. I went there as a kid. It's just an absolutely beautiful ballpark, and the, the one thing I don't like is they moved the left field wall back a bunch last year, and it caused a whole mess of issues for teams playing there and the fielders who played there as well. But yeah, again, especially like there's pictures of like right at sunset when like the sun hits the brick wall right, the whole stadium is just orange, and it's
You can hear
beautiful.
the
It's
whole.
just beautiful. So
And
I would probably put it in it's close. It's close.
if that wall never moved, it's best of the best. I
Yeah.
love this stadium. I think it's absolutely as a Red Sox fan, we get to play there a lot, and I love a game in Camden Yards. I think it's one of the stadiums I want to visit so bad.
It's
The problem
it
is,
has like a nice a nice avenue of restaurants. Like it's sort of along the brick wall, like just underneath it. It's like a beautiful little avenue. It's like its own little street right outside where like home runs would always land in. So if you're traveling through there, you have to keep an eye out for fly balls because you could get hit.
I mean, if I'm traveling there, I'm sitting in the stadium. I'll be honest with you. My
Well,
thing
yeah,
is when yeah, when ball I just like an open concourse where the balls just go. Devers is like owns that stadium, so it's a lot of fun. But that left field wall is literally atrocious. It doesn't fit the stadium dynamics anymore. It's just moved because you're tired of people homering against you. Even though your team plays there 81 games, I don't understand that at all. Get better
and
like pull hitters.
here's the thing, if if they don't move the wall, Orioles probably win a few more games that year, and who knows what happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna still put it under Atlanta though. With that left field, I think that's how bad it is. I don't love the everything else.
I would
You're
agree with that.
100% correct. I just can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. My next pick. I'm going to just pick a worst, like needs to be rebuilt because I think it's awful. And I think it is I'm trying to find it. That's what the struggle is.
I think you
Um
hovered. Yeah, I was gonna say you hovered over it for a while. Yeah,
I
it,
hate the
it,
stadium. I
it's
hate the stadium. It's not meant for baseball. It has the longest foul lines ever in baseball. It's so dumb.
every time a
Um,
home run is hit, it looks like it's landing in an abandoned parking structure because there's never any
yes,
fans there.
it literally looks like a parking garage that they were playing baseball in. It's so pointless. It like, and you know how many like I just how much I hate the stadium is when we have to play there. One, we have to play there late at night. Two, the reason I'm staying up is because we're guaranteed to probably win these games, so I like to watch them. And then when we hit it, we just hit stairs. On both sides, there's these giant just stairs that are empty, full of nobody, and the balls just bounce around and
It's just
like
ricochets everywhere.
and poor David O'Brien has to like sound excited about well, that's all no one's there.
I
You're
felt it
happier than
out of here.
you're happier than everybody else that's
I
in
would
that
still put it
stadium.
above Tropicana though.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right. It's at least
Put it above
outdoors,
Tropicana.
which is how baseball's supposed to be. Man, I hate domes. If you want my honest, I hate domes in baseball. I understand a retractable roof. That makes sense when there's
Mhm.
inclement weather. But if there is no inclement weather, that sucker better be open, and you better be playing under the lights. I don't get. I hate a dome in baseball. But yeah, it's way better than Tropicana. We don't. You and I feel the exact same. We don't have to waste much time on Oakland. A
Yeah.
rebuild, move to Las Vegas, please. Your stadium of choice.
Well, speaking of retractable roofs, let's do Chase Field in Arizona.
Where am I dropping? Where are you
You're,
fighting
you're,
for?
I would honestly drop this one in. It's close. I love I yes, I love the entire aesthetic of the stadium. It's massive. But when you have a big crowd there, it is legitimately one of the coolest environments in baseball. The color scheme of the new darker red jerseys match with the entire vibe of the stadium. It legitimately feels like you're playing in the desert at night, which I think is what they're going for. I like it because it's different than it's different than every other environment in baseball. It's not a dome, but you're also not outside.
Okay. I have few problems with the stadium, and I think it's more middle of the road than you're letting on.
That's fair. I mean, like,
Sure, when it is prime, fine. There are multiple problems with this. One, I hate a stadium with a giant backdrop that when you hit above it, it's a home run. When you hit below it, it's not. I hate the scoreboard. It's not fan interactive. It's not. I don't like that. Not a fan. Because in your biggest park, like every time you hear, you'll see a blast, like an absolute bomb in that stadium, and then the camera doesn't follow it. It just hits above, and they're like, send them around. It's completely loses all the fun of like exiting, as I feel like it. When you hit like, if you hit a wall, if you hit the wall in Fenway, it's coming back into play, and you got to play it.
yeah.
I don't like a wall that stops and it's a home run without exiting. And I hate a pool. I hate the pool. I think that's such gimmicky. I think that's so stupid.
I like the
Um,
pool. I think it's really I think
yeah,
it's
I like
fun.
it. I like if the hot girl summer is out. Woo, cool. But what are we doing? What are we doing? Like if you're a dude swimming around in that pool while baseball's going on, I hate you. Like you're not my friend.
Tell
Uh,
me you would not enjoy sitting in a floaty in left center field
okay,
watching a game play out in front of you. Tell me
you
you
know what?
wouldn't enjoy that.
I'll let it leave. It's this close for that comparison. That's fine. Do they
Be
still have the line? Do they still have the dirt line leading to home plate?
I don't believe they do. I think they got rid of it.
That was meant Diamondbacks. Like, loved it. But okay, I'll leave it. It's close, but I'm believing it's under everything else. It's nowhere
Oh
near.
yeah, I agree. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't think it's as good as Camden or the Bank.
Okay. I don't want to waste my pick on this one, but I think there's another one that's all the best of the best. Can we agree on that one already?
Depends on the one you pick. Yeah,
Okay. Let's just get it out of the way. Like
yeah,
baseball's built on traditions. It just is what it is. Of being somebody that's actually went to that stadium, it's gorgeous.
yeah.
It's gorgeous. And with the song, especially if they win. I'm telling you, you're not a Cubs fan, but if you ever hear "Go Cubs Go" and you don't have a smile on your face and you're not singing along, one, ultimately, I think every team in baseball needs to find that and have it ready to go to play. Because you want to talk about an X fan base exiting a stadium, hearing "Go Cubs Go," it has to be one of the most like insufferable things I've ever or would ever hear in my life. I went to watch I watched the Cubs play the Angels and I got to see Mike Trout play live. It was the highlight. And I saw Anthony Rizzo hit a ball that would be a normal pop fly post in any stadium and it hit the jet stream and just took it
Yeah.
476.
Oh yeah,
It was
baby.
one of the
Oh
coolest
yeah.
moments of my life. So Wrigley, yeah, Fenway is better. Wrigley is definitely number 2 in baseball, but there is something 100% nostalgic and like classic with that stadium. So
With Wrigley, you feel like a kid. The best feeling is, especially for me, who I went to school in Chicago, so I used to go a lot with groups of friends. And if you sit like upper deck behind home plate, sure. There's a couple of seats that are right in front of the of the fucking poles, and it sucks. But guess what? Lean over. The it's like $5. It's a $5 seat. That's what you're gonna get. But if you sit like behind
that's
home plate,
baseball.
if you sit behind home plate towards the center, you get to see Lake Michigan in the background. You see the train running right in front of it, and and from that angle, if the wind's blowing out, any fly ball is a home run. Every time a fly ball is hit, everyone gets on their feet. They're like, go, 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 because they know what kind of day it is. And yes, the amenities probably could be upgraded. The bathrooms still have troughs. So yes, you see 25 men next to you hanging brain, same time as you are. But guess what?
Baseball.
That's baseball.
That's baseball.
That is
Um
baseball.
Also they have like the what is it? The take me out to the ball game, 7th inning, I think it is, and then
Yeah,
like the beer snake, the
beer
all the
snakes, dude. Beer snakes.
yeah.
Oh my god, so
But
fun.
that's baseball.
That's baseball.
And again, if a lot of these teams have struggling teams, but if you're gonna struggle, but you get to go to Wrigley, like I'd be okay with struggling. Like it'd be a lot of fun to play.
Wrigley is one of those
Um,
stadiums where like you would prefer to go when the Cubs suck because it's always cheap. You no matter what, you have a fun time, and if the team they're playing is really good, really good players play at a phenomenal ballpark.
okay, so I'm going to put up for debate another park. And this one's going to be actually with Wrigley. Um and Fenway. And it's Oracle or AT&T Park. The
Oh
Giant
yeah,
Stadium in
beautiful, absolutely gorgeous.
night games are by far better in this stadium. If
Yeah,
you told me that you have to pick stadiums for neutral sites, honestly, besides if you take Fenway completely out of the game, Oracle is my pick.
yeah,
Home runs going over the monster is my number one favorite thing in baseball. Home runs going over into McCovey Code is my number two,
yeah.
and it's no question. Watching Bonds play, watching I will always watch if I can, if it's different time, I will always watch Dodgers Giants. And now I will watch Padres Giants. If it's in Oracle, it adds a viewing perspective higher than anything else.
That
And
Dodgers
I
Giants NLDS series from 2021 at those 3 games at Oracle Park, I was glued to those games at every single second, not just because of the 200-win teams on display, but because we got to get those games prime time. Everything is orange and black. The night sky in San Francisco, and one of my favorite baseball moments of the last several years is Evan Longoria's leadoff home run in Game One. That man, when that man hit that home run clear into the cove, I went nuts because it's one of those situations where the stadium, it affects the atmosphere of not just everyone around them, but of you at home. And a monumental moment like that just made it all that much better, especially a guy like Longoria who, has been trying to redeem himself over the last several years.
I still hate him.
True,
2012
but
still hurts really bad.
yeah,
Overall, also I really remember the Cardinals playing the Giants. I don't remember what year. It may have been 2014. The final outs. It was just a
y-
torrential downpour
oh, that
that
was
happened
2012.
on the 2012
2012
torrential downpour
was
to
the
watch the
downpour.
Cardinals just have to swing in that, and you're just like, we're just going to end the game. I felt so bad for that team, but also like it was so funny. Just
I
because
I, I I loved it because that whole year they had the chip on them. They won a World Series off of like 83 wins. It's like, oh,
yeah.
cool. You get to face the even year Giants now. Go fuck
Hey,
yourself.
hey. Well, there's the Cub coming out. There's the cross
Here's the
team.
thing. Game 4, 2015, that atmosphere at Wrigley, dude, you nobody who was not a Cardinals fan wasn't a Cubs fan that day.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my pick.
Mhm.
What's your pick? I think it's still under Wrigley and Fenway just for
Yeah,
the
I agree.
sake, but it's very that big ball glove, that Coke bottle. Oh, something about it's baseball.
I'm interested to see what you think of this one. Bring up Target Field for Minnesota.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Where
do middle of the road personally.
Okay. I'm 100% with you. I'm actually going
Yeah.
there this season. I'm going
Oh,
there
nice.
this season to watch the Red Sox and Twins play. But I'm with you, and I want to see what your reasoning. But
Because
I think we're on the same plane.
it's weird. It's a very frustrating because A, you built a state-of-the-art outdoor stadium in Minnesota. If you're gonna
Yep.
build a dome in one singular market in America, why the hell don't you pick Minnesota? Because games in this stadium in April, September, and October are miserable to watch. Everything is gray. It's depressing. I want to kill myself every time I see Byron Buxton swing a bat because if it's not a home run, it's usually a strikeout. And games are just miserable. Now, but in the middle of the summer, when the Twins are breaking out their alternate jerseys and there's a bunch of fans there, it's a great environment. And the stadium, it's weird. It's like the whole outfield bleachers. It's like in its own like tier system, but not in a first, second, third deck kind of way. It's like there's sub levels to each deck, and it just throws me off every single time.
Few things. One, outdoor stadium in Minnesota, very interesting. Beautiful stadium. Very interesting choice. I'm going in June, so not going to have to worry about it. Second, we will probably do uniforms before we do our before the season starts because
Let's
not to tip
go.
my hat, but the new Twins unis, fire,
Yeah,
fire. Um, but
they're
we'll talk about
definitely
that.
an improvement.
Miles. If I wasn't a Red Sox fan, they would have minded got me on the uniforms alone. Uh the problem is with the stadium is it has too many sections, and I'm trying. That's me right now trying to buy tickets to figure out where I want to sit because if I sit front row of either left or right field, I don't have a shot in hell of getting the home run because over the second tier is going to get those home runs, but then it's higher up.
I
And
usually
then it
go
has
like
that.
first or third baseline if I can't decide because either way, a ball's gonna come my way.
Yeah, I'm not like the home run, like, "Ooh, I need to grab one," but for the off chance that I get it, that'd be cool. Um,
You're
it
not Zach
also has
Haney?
that no, it also has that right field, like, lip thing
Oh,
over that
yeah,
I hate the lip because is it gonna be a home run? Is he under? I can't tell. Terrible. It's one of the worst stadiums on TV because they don't
yes.
know how to, like, record, like, in it. I love, like,
There's
the
no way
home
to
runs.
frame parts of the stadium to make it look good.
Yeah, but I like the open terrace, like, to the right, so, like, the hits, it bounces out, like, it's cool there, but overall, middle of the road. I honestly was gonna put it could be better because they had the golden opportunity, but with it being newer and looks nice and I don't hate it, it's fine. But yeah, Cole, be thankful they're not in the playoffs. Could you imagine that team having to play there opening and Correa, I don't know how his ankle's gonna hold up in that freezing cold, but whatever. He chose his life for the next 6 years, so enjoy. Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. This one may be controversial. Maybe not. Um, it's close. Progressive Field.
Okay.
I love Progressive Field. I'd honestly put it right next to the bank if I had to rank these. I on a lot. Giant wall got me.
Mhm.
Giant jumbotron, like giant screen, got me. Center field where you can have like a small section of people still sitting there, bullpens lined up, not taking up home run space to fall into them. Another right field full of fans. Also, crazy fans that go nuts for Progressive Field.
Mhm.
Um, Big, like when it was in the home when it was in the All-Star game, loved
Yeah.
it. Home run derby in that stadium is beautiful. I thought I was gonna struggle with the transition to the Guardians a lot more than I did. It was actually a seamless transition for me, which is kind of weird. But like love the uniforms, love the like environment of that stadium and like having that it it's close, but it feels massive. Like when you hit a ball deep to center, like if it's to the right, it's home run. If it's to the left, it could ricochet off that wall, which is perfect for me.
Yeah.
So I would put
I
it's close, and I'd put it right above Braves.
I love the outfield of this ballpark. It's beautiful. 2016 World Series, those first 2 games were so fun to watch. Just from a ballpark perspective, I do not like behind home. I do not like how it has the massive wall there, and the fans can't really sit right behind it. There's like mini cages
Okay.
off to the right and to the left. It just doesn't it just doesn't feel like baseball to me. It feels like you're watching it from a prison cell if you're
Oh,
behind home plate. So for me, it definitely takes it down a few notches. I'm okay with it being this close. I would probably put it below Braves and Orioles though.
even with that left field wall.
I mean, look, it depends
Let's
on what
compare
barbecue
left
you
field
want.
walls. Let's compare left field walls.
I mean, I would say Progressive probably has a better left field wall, but also Camden actually has fans who sit behind home plate. So it depends on what you like to look at
I don't
less.
like to
Do
look
you
at
like
those people. I'll give it to you right now. Dang it. Okay, your pick.
because here's the thing, you stare at behind home plate for over like 60% of the game. You stare at the
I
left field
don't
wall.
care about it. I never noticed it until you just brought it up.
All right, let's do another dome. Let's do the Rogers Center.
Okay.
I would honestly put middle of the road.
Oh, okay. I'm
Here,
fighting for
because
could be better, but we can talk.
I mean, we can talk about it because again, the dome concept is rough, but but if you prop it up next to Tropicana, it is way better in every way, shape, or form. It has one of the best packed house environments in the sport. The sound in there is deafening. Every time the Blue Jays do something, the color scheme of the all blue really shines come playoff time. And it doesn't really have the same issues that Tropicana does with I mean, it does have sometimes with the rafters, but it's so much higher than Tropicana. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. There really haven't been any major issues with the stadium. Now, exterior wise, it looks like a piece of dog crap, but inside, it's what's on the inside that counts. So every time the Red Sox play there, I don't mind looking at it. I think it's a nice stadium. It's structured well, and I do love the massive tiers of the outfield. It has an old school vibe to it.
Well, you just raised my point. I hate the tiers. I hate a home run that goes into blank spaces. Always will, always have. Like I
But
need
it's not
fans
like
to
it's
hold.
not like the Coliseum where it
Sure.
lands in concrete. You actually have fans in those sections who catch the fly balls.
No, they don't. No, they don't, Thomas. You're a liar because the stadium has wall, then fans. So a lot of home runs just drop over that little spot right in between the wall and the fans. They all go into little sections all over the stadium. Unless it's a moonshot, they go into the fans. I agree. But like center field, not a fan in sight. I get it. How cool. You have a hotel in your center thing. I think that's so dumb. So dumb.
The hotel is a bit
The
far fetched.
tiers, I just wanted I want opening. I want opening. I want big. I want expensive. So
We can put it in. It could be better, but I do want it higher than others. Then it could be better because
that's
I
fine.
think it's floating in between there. I'll give you that one.
Okay. Okay. Another one I can fight for pretty high. Um. I think I'm gonna get. I don't know if I choose this one because you're gonna be cranky. Um. I'll fight for, if not best of the best, the first of. It's close.
I am more
Fancy
than
Barn.
okay with this being. I am okay with this being best of the best. It's an absolutely gorgeous ballpark.
Okay. By far, I hate the feel. Like, go back, travel back with me when the Pirates were in the playoffs a while ago. I know. But when that stadium is rocking, hoisted
Bueno, bueno.
the on the river, just the black and gold looking great. Again, I think that's so smart for their fan base, is just do every team in the same color scheme. It just works. I don't know why other cities don't copy that, because like you don't see black and gold in any other thing and don't say Pittsburgh. So with that overall, I love like the right field where it's there, and then the opening just to the river and to the left. It's by far best of the best.
Well,
Again, one of those neutral
it's
sites.
so beautiful when it's empty. Like in August, September, when the
True,
Pirates
true.
are 40 and 90. It's like people still show up. It's still a beautiful ballpark. Like the skyline behind it, like Pittsburgh isn't the most beautiful city on the face of the earth, but the way they structured it so the skyline would pop up just behind the river and the stadium, it is one of the most aesthetically pleasing images in sports. So I'm okay with this being best of the best.
So we're about 50 minutes in. I didn't expect us one to go this long on this. So we're gonna save this right where we're at. On our next episode, we'll continue this process, but we're gonna go switch gears to ranking some baseball teams, because that's the title of our video. It'd be really weird if we just did an entire stadium video for 2 hours. So right there, those will all be back, and we will rank the other ones in our next video. So we're going to switch gears. We're going to start ranking. If you did not catch our previous episodes, we recorded a few that it didn't make the overall. We didn't post them. Basically, how we rank it. So we'll make those really quick to our topic. So basically, this is basically the 2023 season outlook. not where we personally feel where they're going, basically based on their offseason moves, where we think projected going. We'll make our standings videos later. Um, so overall, we're gonna need we'll just put our teams that we basically put in the bottom of the barrel last year. Um, and when I said find a new team to love for this season, because we don't believe this season is going to be your season overall. I'm missing one, Scully. Where's
Tigers.
Tiger? Okay. And then me and Scully already talked in depth. We won't make it a long drawn out, but we talked about oh crap. Can't remember anything where my brain went.
We talked. Oh, we talked about the Rockies.
Correct.
The Rockies, the Royals, the Angels, the Diamondbacks, and I'm missing one. And the Giants too.
No, we did talk about the Giants. Okay.
Here's the thing: I wouldn't put the D-backs and Giants in 5.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I just found them all, and then because we didn't have this open discussion yet, so we're going to talk. And I rid the world of your Angels hate, so I don't want to rid everybody from that hate. So, where we're going to say is me and Scully may disagree, but he is strong on the Diamondbacks. It's just they're going to be better than you think, right? But they're not going to make the playoffs. We both believe
they're not going to make the playoffs this year, but that is more emblematic of how competitive the National League is, considering you have 3 possible 100-win teams in one division alone. And even with the expanded playoffs, you still have 2 other teams in the West, as well as a couple teams in the Central that could break that 90-win barrier. So it's more due to the competitiveness of the National League. Give it a year, a couple of those teams probably fall off, and Arizona is right back up there with their new core of great young players.
Okay. So we'll pick Arizona. Kansas City has a lot of youth. They're going to be rebounding. We believe that this not this year, but they could have a brighter future. I believe, and you may disagree, I believe the Rockies are on the worst projection like possible.
Due to the recent injury of Brendan Rodgers, because he was going to be a good chunk of their production this year.
Not only that, I just don't think their plans on a rebuild is like good. If I'm being real,
of course not.
They signed Chris Bryant. They don't have a pitching staff. They don't rank very high in the pipeline either. So on that paper, I just feel like it's going to be I think it's going to be at least 3 to 4 more years before they're even going to start rebounding to any nature. So
especially with how the West is, Padres and Dodgers aren't going to be out of the contention window anytime soon. The Giants are probably a few pieces away from being playoff ready. Same with the Diamondbacks. So you're looking at a team that will be 5th place for a very long time, unless they commit to a full rebuild, or magically everyone starts hitting for average.
So we'll save the last one. Me and Scully disagree. Very hard, harshly on this one. I believe the Angels could make it.
Here's the thing. I don't disagree with you. They could make it. I don't think they will. They could, because they have the pieces necessary to do so. The problem is, the last several years, they've taken those pieces and they've wiped their asses with it and flushed it down the toilet. That's my thing. So could, absolutely. Will, there's a better chance of me going a 3rd testicle.
So where do you want me to put them? Could make it.
Put them in could make it. But because here's the thing, shit happens.
We'll see how far we'll see how far they fall down.
In the American League, I don't think 2 teams come out of the Central. I think 3 teams could probably come out. I think 2 teams do come out of the West. But in the East could easily cannibalize itself, and you have 3 teams sitting at 80, 85 wins, and the Angels come in with 87, 88. and make it in. It's entirely possible for them to sneak in the way the Phillies did last year.
Do you
It's
think with
entirely
balanced scheduling, this is off topic and we'll probably rant for a second, but do you think with like balanced scheduling, like they should just like I understand division winners should be there, but like maybe not even
I
like go
think
based on teams?
with the
Like
balanced scheduling, I think division winners shouldn't automatically get seeds. I think if you win your division at let's say you're the Braves in 2021 and you win your division at 88 games. If you had a balanced schedule, why should you be higher than the Dodgers who won 105 games?
do you
That
think
to
it
me
should
doesn't
automatically guarantee you a spot though, but not guarantee a high seed?
it guarantees you a spot, but it doesn't guarantee you a high seed.
Interesting. I agree with you. Okay. Because yeah, we'll talk about that other thing. We're going to treat this a lot like we just treated stadiums. We're going to pick teams to talk about. And when
Yeah.
we talk about them, and if this is like, if we go really long and we're tapping out a little bit, we'll repeat next time with the remaining, but I think we can get through most of them. So I'm going to let Scully, since I picked the last stadium, Scully, you pick the first team of the remaining that you'd like to talk about, and then tell me where you think they should go. This based on their offseason and projection going forward.
Let's talk about a team that I think we've both been itching to do, and it's the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
I
And where are you
I, I
going to
would
fight for them at?
I would put them. It could make it because here's the thing. I think they had a very solid offseason. Even
Okay.
though they lost 94 games, you add not just DeGrom, but you also add Eovaldi and Heaney, who had a great year last year, and then Odorizzi for depth. I'm not saying these guys are game wreckers, but
Uh,
provide yourself insurance in case your younger guys start to fall off a bit. I think veteran presence in that clubhouse, not Corey Seager and Marcus Simeon, but a veteran voice on that pitching staff is going to help stabilize the rotation a bit. So I think they end up finishing third in the West, above LA. That's right, above LA. And then you have young guys like Josh Jung, who I think could make a considerable leap this season. So I would put them up above the Angels personally. But yeah, I think they could make it. Don't think they will, but I think they could make it.
you think the veteran leadership is going to do a lot from the bench when they're not being able to pitch in regular season games? Listen, I
But
believe these are my beliefs. One, the Dodgers magic looked real nice on Andrew Heaney. Um, overall,
I didn't say it was a
but
game wrecker. I'd say it provides some
I,
stability.
sir, I heard what you said. But here's my thing. I said when you think about that as a perspective of him coming over to another stadium, I don't think he could transition. I think it's a very similar to what the Angels did with Tyler Anderson. Once the shine for whatever the Dodgers did, and then they do this, I think it could go dangerous. I think
Oh,
DeGrom's going.
so now you're saying that because it's never going to be released. But when we were talking about the Angels, you thought that Anderson was going to be really good for the Angels, and now you're changing your tune a little bit. So it's
I
nice.
think
It's
he
nice to see a
could.
little bit
I
of
think he
offers.
could. But what if the magic doesn't stick to either team, right? Second,
If it doesn't stick to either
sir,
team, then I think both pitching staffs become much worse.
sir, I believe the Red Sox let Evaldi go for a reason. I
Mhm.
don't believe they were very comfortable with his medical, um, and how he was progressing to offer him a contract. So they let him walk.
Yeah.
There's not a shot in hell that Martin Perez does exactly what he did last season. I saw that man pitch for 2 seasons. I saw him. He will not do that again this year. There's no way. Simeon thing, I just don't. I think this is a lot of bang, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of return, and I don't think there's a lot.
Teams from Texas know a lot about banks, so
I think there's going to be not a lot of return coming back for them. So I think they're under the Angels until
that's fair.
proven because Seager and Simeon both had career years. They offered them the bank. They show up to that stadium and they didn't. Simeon, what finished with how many home runs? Like that stadium sucks if you're a home run hitter. Sucks. We'll talk about that in the stadium ranking. So I guess we're just going to agree to disagree on the Texas Angels. This will be they'll stay together. We'll consider them one spot because we both believe in different viewpoints. Let's talk about another team that I want to talk about. Um, do we just get one out of the way? That's really easy. No, we'll just do this one. I consider them here. Um, but I don't believe the Cubs are in the could make it. I don't think they have a shot, to be honest. I understand the Central is a question mark. But this team is I'm okay with eating crow and say they could make it later in the year. But for this, they have way too many question marks on their team. They have a lot of like that could be really good, but until it's proven on the field, I can't explain it. They signing Tyone, getting Bellinger, which I wanted Bellinger on the Red Sox. I think they broke him in LA. I think he has everything to be that player. He just needed more mechanics. I think Stroman. I think Ian Happ. I think who's the international free agent that got last year?
Saya.
Saya. I think he's going to have a massive step forward. I think Hosmer. I think their core as a team looks like that team doesn't look as bad as I think Dansby Swanson, I think, coming over, even though what Chipper Jones said about him today didn't probably stung a little bit. Overall, I think they have a lot of spark, but I don't think it's this year. I think they're close. And this could be deadline moves of what happens to maybe get over the thing. But this also could be the deadline where they trade Ian Happ and they trade some of these 1-year contract, not big names for other players. So your thoughts. I know this one hits a little closer to home. I pulled the trigger a little hard for this one, but go ahead.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on the fact that they have holes. I would personally put them at the tail end of could make it because with how volatile the Central is, and I don't have a lot of confidence in Milwaukee or St. Louis to run away with the division. Because here's the thing. Last year, the Cubs finished with a plus 500 record against Milwaukee and St. Louis combined.
That's fair.
They constantly gave those teams work throughout the back half of that season. I think they made some very smart additions without breaking the bank in typical in typical douchebag owner fashion. I think Jed Hoyer had to put thumb screws on Tom Ricketts to get him just to spend money. I like what I've seen from Bellinger so far in camp. I think he has his swing back. I think Nico Horner is going to be I think he's going to lead the league in OBP this year. He's going to be a phenomenal top of the order guy for them. The offense is there. I think the pitching rotation, they don't have a clear number one. Stroman, you would think, is the obvious choice, but he was very inconsistent throughout the season. Tyon is not a number one.
No.
Drew Smiley, of course, not. They have so many twos and threes on that team. There's not one singular guy I say, hey, in a game 163, I'm sending him on the mound. Now, there could always be a flare from one of them, and one of them could have a Cy Young type year. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but I just don't. It's going to be the pitching that does them in this year. So the big question of does Swanson, bottle what he did last year and spread that out over his contract? Because
Did you see? Go ahead.
because before 2022, he wasn't a $177 million guy. He probably isn't one now, but that's the price That's the price it is for a quality shortstop now. So that and the pitching are the two biggest question marks. I do think this team gets above 500 this year. I think they are able to challenge St. Louis and Milwaukee for a while, but ultimately they fall short. And it's the same reason a lot of these NL teams are going to be in the could make it brackets or the not this year brackets. It's of how competitive the National League is.
Yeah. And that's why, like, again, we could sit here mid-season All-Star break, and I look at you and be like, I was wrong about the Cubbies. They got
Well,
everything they need.
I don't think they're going to make any big moves at the deadline this year. This is a team that's going to stand pat and then throw the bank at Otani. They're going to throw
They're not
everything they
getting
have at Otani. Hey,
Otani ain't going to
they
Chicago.
finished second place to the Angels in the sweepstakes in 2018.
They're not getting. I'll eat my shorts if he's wearing a Red Sea.
Can happen.
Okay. But I'm saying by the All-Star break, I said I could be wrong about the Cubbies, not for like a trade deadline thing, but like they're rolling, they're top of their division, they're doing well. But I agree with you. This is if they make it, they ain't lasting long. That pitching staff cannot do. I'm gonna miss Jamison Tyone.
Yeah. In a wild card series, maybe. In a 5-game series, no way.
Isn't it 3 games in all wild card?
Yeah, that's what I mean. In a wild card series, yes, I'm saying in a 3-game series, yes.
In a wild, you like them better in a wild card?
If you get the 3 best games from Stroman, Taillon, and Drew Smiley, you can win a playoff series. I said the best 3.
Say that with a straight face. That you say best game possible from Drew Smiley. Say it with a straight face.
Hey, before Smiley got injured in Seattle, he was going to be one of the best pitchers in the league.
Oh my god!
And then
we're gonna have to check. We're gonna have to check you. You may be on some drugs. Okay, you pick your next team.
All right, let's go to the White Sox.
Okay, where you want them?
Could make it.
I think you should find another team. Sell them. Because doesn't the city of Chicago hate this man that owns this team? Isn't this correct?
They hate both owners. I want to boil Reinsdorf over a flaming pot for what he's done to the Bulls. A different story. But if you're a White Sox fan, it's the same story because this is a team that has so much talent, but has no idea what to do with it. They have 2 of the best pitchers in the league, and yet for the life of them, cannot give them any run support, even though 2/3 of their starting 9 were once top 10 prospects. And yet somehow these guys can't hit for average, can't hit more than 15 home runs in a season, and for some reason, their glove is on their foot. And again, Tony La Russa was probably the worst choice to manage them. I would have much rather have Bobby Valentine manage this team than Tony La Russa.
Don't you ever say that name again.
Part of me wanted to see your reaction, but low-key, La Russa on a young team of great international players, he ain't it. Now, Pedro Dufal,
I'm gonna miss him showing up in that South Side all black and pinstriped.
Here's the thing. He wore that like it was his Sunday best, and I love him for that. But in all seriousness, he sucked. And I do think Pedro Dufal is going to bring a nice change. He was with Ned Yost for all those years in Kansas City and won a World Series with him. And he's had experience.
Okay, you're right. Okay, sorry. I thought you meant the NCAA Alabama head coach.
No,
but that's Ned.
Jesus Christ. Are you on something?
It's late. My bad. Enjoy.
But I think with he comes from the experience of taking a group of very young, talented players on both the pitching and the hitting side and turning them into champions. So I think there's a lot of potential for this team. They could make it, but I need to see something first. Like I would like again, I'm more Cubs than White Sox, but I would love to see this team in October playing their best baseball.
Um, yeah, the baby Sox, as I like to call them, not the true Sox of the sport, the baby Sox. Poor injuries, man. This team just can't stay healthy. I mean, we found out Sale can't stay healthy either, but Yohan Makata struggling. Tim Anderson, they lost. They say what you will, but they lost a huge bat in their first base. They lost Jose Abreu, and that is
Yeah,
going
and
to hurt them massively this season. I think. Um, they're such a slow team too, which they shouldn't be a slow team, but
no.
they seem like such a slow team.
And now they
They have
lost.
what?
Well, hey, they
Luis,
brought back Elvis Andrews, so
true. Luis Robert, and they got what's the other left fielder? Jimenez?
Vaughn. Is my Vaughn? No,
No,
but Vaughn.
Jimenez.
Yeah, yeah. Eloy.
Oh,
Eloy, who
yeah.
came over in the Quintana trade, and if not for Dylan, both teams would have lost that trade. That is one of the biggest busts I think for both sides.
I just think this is it. This is it for this team. If they can't get through and get to the playoffs, and honestly, they were the pick to win the division last year from a lot of people
Yeah,
and fell well
I
short.
haven't made like 93 games. I think
If
last year.
if they don't win, then don't make the playoffs and make a decent run, I think it's time to blow it up. That's
If
my
they have
biggest.
to sit back and watch the Guardians build a elite prospect pool in the time it took them to develop their prospect pool, and the Guardians are staring down the barrel of back-to-back playoff appearances, something is fans are going to have to riot because that is unacceptable. You're talking about your division rivals who almost set a record for wins in 2017, lost in the World Series a year before then plateaued, restructured, and now 5 years later have come back with like 10 top 100 prospects and have eclipsed you in the time it took you to tear down and rebuild. That is one of the most frustrating things you can experience as a baseball fan.
Well, you also got to think too is I mean all they did this offseason, I think the Twins got better, and I think we'll talk about the Twins got better, and the Guardians got better. I would say,
And
and
they threw the brakes truck at Andrew Benintendi.
yeah, which I like Benny. I wanted him back, and like it just didn't work out
Not
for
for that
that.
price.
No, not for that price. That's not a Benny Tinney's salary. So I don't know. Could make it. I think they're higher than the Angels and Rangers.
I agree.
Um, we'll talk about. Let's talk about a team that I think some people interested. Um, I'm going to go with the Phillies.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they made very smart moves this offseason. The owner and Dombrowski should really thank Harper because honestly, the steal of the offseason, if you want my honest opinion, was Trey Turner for the price value over the course of years that they got him for when all the other shortstops that are not to his level at all. Like, as a Red Sox fan, if you were to approach me and say, who would you want, Bogarts or Trey Turner? I want Trey Turner. I just didn't think Trey Turner's an option. And I think went for less money than Bogarts ended up going for, or it may have been close. But
Yeah,
they're not.
it's similar average annual values.
They're just not the same player. Like let's not mistake it. They're not the same player at all. Um, they added bullpen pieces that made their bullpen stronger by Soto and the Tigers. They made they also got a solid third starter, fourth starter in
And
Taiwan Walker.
Taiwan Walker, yeah.
they were just making like small like stab moves, and you're like, damn, what the Phillies again? Again, the banks, they know their window. They're going to be in another 10-year drought when this window closes, but
And
have
Bryce
fun while
Harper
they
will
have it.
still be there.
Have fun while it's going on right now. Him and Trey will both be there. But this team is poised to, if I was an NL East team, it is going to be the best division in baseball to watch, bar none. This division has now surpassed the AL East. I don't think the four teams that can compete against each other in the AL East are even close to what the Mets, Braves, and Phillies will be must see TV every time that they square off. And I will most likely watch a lot of their games because I'll probably split screen it. One will be the Red Sox and one will be the other team because I think it's going to be that fascinating to watch this season. Um, you live in the Atlanta area, so you said you went to Tourist Park a few times. So you're a
Mhm.
little bit Braves aligned. You know a lot about them. You watch them. You like them as a team. Philly's got to be a scary team this season for
Absolutely. I think Trey Turner was far and away, the best free agent on the market this offseason. And this includes Aaron Judge, by the way.
and
I
went below market
What
value.
blows
So,
value. The
okay.
value he brings to your lineup is astronomical. The Phillies had one major hole on their roster. It was shortstop, and they filled it. They filled it with the best guy on the market. Now, over the
Who's the
course
third
of a
baseman?
over the course of a 162 game season, much like how we've been talking about the Phillies in recent years, the question is not the hitting; it's the pitching. Wheeler, Nola, we know they can produce. Ranger Suarez needs to show he can be efficient for an entire season. Taiwan Walker, he's now the number three, number four guy in the rotation. He needs to show that he can be effective over the course of an entire season. I
But
am
being out
looking
of New
at.
York, I think is going to help him because players
I
play different when they're in New York.
I agree. I am looking at those two pitchers, and when they play their NL East rivals, how do those games end? Do they get roughed up, give up 4 or 5 runs, and their team loses? Or do they tighten up, pitch better, give their teams more quality starts, and win these games? That is going to be the biggest X factor this season for the Phillies. Because if those two guys can figure it out and be consistent, this team will win the NL East and they will be the top seed in the playoffs come October. Now, if it doesn't go that way, they're probably going to be in third again, and they won't win 100 games because that's been the issue with the Phillies all since they got Harper. It's always been pitching. Um, Bullpen, they got Gregory Soto from the Tigers. That'll be fine. But again, bullpen pieces can only take you so far. It's those anchor guys in the rotation who have to make the difference.
No, yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I just think overall, like this team with what they did last year by beating strong teams when they had to. What they beat the Padres, the um, they beat the Braves. They beat the brakes off the Braves. If we're being real honest, like they beat the Braves bad in the playoffs. So I think only getting better. And again, I think the Braves formula is correct. Like, sit there and just hold out and just wait because they have a strong core and they're strong enough. But
And here's the thing: I
they,
still think, if we're on topic of, I still think the Braves are the best team in the National League. I
you want
think,
to talk about them next?
yeah,
Okay.
I'll go ahead. I put them at World Series contender above the Phillies. Actually, I think with all the pieces that this team has,
We'll
and
talk.
again,
Go ahead.
I live around this team. I watch a lot of their games, but
So you're biased, is what you're saying.
I wouldn't say I'm biased. I would just say I would say that I pay attention to them more than a regular fan would.
That's fair.
But this team, they have everything. They have everything that your World Series contender needs. They have a strong rotation all the way 1 through 5. They have
Whoa.
quality. You're telling me
You're going to tell with a straight face, you're going to tell me it's a solid 1 through 5 pitching staff?
Max Fried, Charlie Morton,
I,
Spencer Strider, Kyle Wright, healthy Mike Soroka. That 5.
you're not giving me Charlie Morton. You're
I'm
just
giving you Charlie. I'm giving you Charlie Morton as the 5. Charlie Morton as the
You
5.
mentioned him a second.
Well, flub. But those 5 fully healthy. Here's the thing: Mike Soroka. If Mike Soroka gets back to his full health, he was their opening day starter 3 years ago, and was a huge difference maker up until he tore his Achilles. This man, if he stays healthy, he would be what Max Fried is right now. And 2 Max Frieds on a rotation? Holy shit. But fully healthy, the best rotation in baseball 1 through 5. They are going to have to replace the production of Swanson, and I think them staying what?
I'm trying to poke holes in your top 5 1 through 5. I would consider the Yankees having a better 1 through 5. I would consider because
Do you
Cole
trust
Rod.
East
Hold on, Cole Rod. You're wanting me to trust Charlie Morton, Cole Rodon, Nestor Cortez, Luis Severino. I guess they just lost their 5th.
Don't give me
Frankie
Frankie
Montas.
Montas now. Don't come at me with Frankie Montas now.
But I said those 4. If you're going to give me Charlie Morton as the 4, I would trust those 4.
I mean, if you want
Astros, Padres,
who are the 4 on the Astros? I mean, of course you got you have
Lance.
Valdez. You have Valdez and Javier. Yes, Garcia.
Lance McCullers.
After what happened in Philly,
bro, you can't.
What happened in Philly? Are you kidding me?
Again, you could be.
I
think this is
that now.
We may rank the starting pitching of each staff, but I think this will be a different conversation. Go back to your Braves love.
But regardless, Von Grissom is going to be the topic of much of their in-season discussion. They haven't wavered from him as their starting shortstop, so that tells me that they are confident he can replace the production of Dansby Swanson at least somewhat. And then of course, guys like Michael Harris are only going to get better. So,
Phillies have Craig Kimbrell going to Lander.
Yeah, I was going to say, enjoy the heart attack, Philly.
I lived that life for a long time. I loved him.
Red Sox fans can never complain about Kenley because we had to live through Kimbrell.
Correct. You did lose Kenley, which I'm very excited about. I'm going to be honest with you. Very excited about. Yeah. And everybody's like, oh, good luck with his pitch clock. Did you see what he just did? He's already adapted. It's beautiful. I can't wait. Okay. Well, let's just do it. We're here. We're battling it all.
I'll put the Mets in third. In third behind them. That's fine. I have a hard time seeing them as a World Series contender. I'll be honest with you.
Stop it. Scherzer, Verlander. Again, if you're going to lose a DeGrom and you're going to add a Verlander, you're clear. Arguably, he's worth every penny they paid him. I think if he can stay healthy, which is any pitcher whatsoever, he was able to do last season is scary. I like their lineup a lot. I love an owner that's going to throw caution to the wind and just want to win now. So the deadline, I can see some big moves coming from them. I think they are older in areas, which is going to pose more of a problem. Because I think I'll just be transparent. Pete Alonso is one of the most unlikable human beings in Major League Baseball. I can't stand the dude. I can't stand to watch him play. He's just so unapproachable. But I think Francisco Lindor, I think Starlin Marte, I think they overpaid for some guys that I just don't think is correct. But they wanted who they wanted, and they didn't care what the price tag was, which just shows a lot about an owner. I just think when there's players out there, like I think probably what the news hasn't said is like Steve Cohen went towards Trey Turner and said, "Hey, here's the money," but Trey wanted to play with Bryce. If I read anything into it, I think he wanted to play with Bryce, so it didn't matter who was offering because the Padres offered a lot of money too. I think if that pitcher, what's his name?
Senga.
If Senga can do what he's supposed to do, like though that's a strong four. They lost some. They lost some people like Bassett. They lost Taiwan Walker, but I think overall this team can be there at the end. I just think they're. I think that division is going to be very tight, and I think they could be a World Series tender. I just do because I think in the postseason, if you can get to the postseason, that's all you need to do. It doesn't matter what kind of team you are entering because anybody can catch lightning in a bottle when they need to. So that's why I wanted to bring up the Mets. We don't have to talk long about it because we talked about this division at
Sorry.
length right
I
now.
think I think with the Mets, the new playoff format pokes a lot of holes in the idea that if you win 100 games, you're automatically a lock to at least make it to the CS. Because in a short 3-game series like that, there is no room for error. What the Padres were able to do is essentially bottle all their production into just 2 really strong games. And if you watch game 2 of that series, they kind of took their foot off the pedal because they knew who was pitching in game 3. You can afford to do things like that in a 3-game series. So my thing is, for the Mets, it's all going to be on Senga. Can he be that third guy in the rotation to where if you're in that wild card series and you're starting game 3, how are you going to perform? So I think he's I think the biggest X factor in that rotation. Offense wise, they didn't really add or subtract anything. The bullpen also makes me a little uneasy. Even though they did add Robertson. So bullpen, I think, is
so
what's might lose them some games though.
I just want to I dropped them down to playoff bound by looking at their lineup a little bit more. I think they have Carrasco, which we didn't really address, and they have I guess that's their fifth because they have Jose Quintana, um, Senga, Verlander, Scherzer. I think there's a lot of question marks on
I
that
think
staff.
Quintana's it's going to end up being the New York effect all over again.
I do agree. And then I looked their catcher depth's very questionable. If Francisco Alvarez turns into be the stud that he's supposed to be, great. But then they are their their infield looks like Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Francisco Lindor, um, Eduardo Escobar, which I think is an old infield, to be honest with you. And then their outfield, I mean,
That's an infield where you are relying on Jeff McNeil to keep up average.
they
You are
have
relying on Jeff
Nemo,
McNeil
they have
for all that.
Nemo, Marte, they signed Tommy Pham. Then they have Vogelback. I just think this team's not as great on paper. It looks better on paper, but when you look at the paper's got a lot of holes in it for me. So I'm going to say playoff bound. I think those two should win the division. One of those should win the division if the Mets make it to the third seed of those three. That's my opinion. We'll let you take the next one.
Cool. Let's talk about Let's talk about our old friends, the New York Yankees.
Okay. And where do you want to talk to them
We
about?
put them in playoff bound.
Okay. Higher or lower than the Mets?
Lower, uh, lower.
Okay.
Because
Take it away.
I'm trying to be as objective as possible.
Isn't it hard?
Um, John Heyman is a rat, and I credit him for the reason Judge resigned in New York. He's a
I agree.
snitch, and Judge should be a giant right now. But
Should be, yeah.
that production is not sustainable. I'm sorry, it's not. You're not going to hit 60 home runs year after year unless your name is Barry Bonds, and even Barry Bonds didn't do it, with or without the steroids. That level of production where one man is carrying your entire offensive lineup. It's not sustainable. I don't know why they re-signed Anthony Rizzo, because the last thing they need in that lineup is more power. Ever since they traded for Rizzo, he hasn't been the player they needed him to be. Now, DJ LeMahieu, he is going to be a big part of what happens to them this year. If he's able to be that anchor piece at the top of the lineup, like he was in 2019, then I think this team can definitely jump up to the contender spot. But at the end of the day, that's now two players you're relying on for half your offensive production, and it's just it never works out for those types of teams. It didn't work out for the Phillies when it was just Bryce. They needed to add more pieces to it. So, as far as the rotation, that's a disaster waiting to happen. I think the moment you shaved off Rodon's beard, you took away his magic. I think the bullpen has a lot of questions, even though they brought back Tommy Kahnle. I just nothing like nothing about this team makes me confident in saying anything about them aside from they're not going to win the American League. They're not going to win the World Series. And best case scenario, they lose to the Astros again.
Um, so a few things. One, Judge wanted the captaincy and wanted that legacy. And I am all for players staying with the team that drafted them and do the stadium thing, be the statue outside the stadium, be that player when you look at the logo. It's the player you think of. I get it. Fully get it. The fan base that booed him in the ALCS, um, just disgusting. Just absolutely disgusting. Shows how big of a rat and how disgusting the New York Yankees fan base are. They're gross. They're awful human beings. I hate them. Um, that's on the side note. This team got better in one area, but got weak, but stayed weak in so many areas. Listen, as a Red Sox fan, I pray for the Red Sox to do good and the demise of the New York Yankees. I'm okay with losing to the Rays, the Blue Jays, the Orioles. I don't like it. I still hate it. But I hate the Yankees that much. All right. I would rather take losses to all of them than an undefeated season of the Yankees, and it's a positive for me for the most part. Um, this team this team and this fan base, Michael Kay went on ESPN and talked about if they had been an attendee, if they had oh if they had like somebody else that they were missing that was injured.
LeMahieu, they're missing LeMahieu.
They had LeMahieu. And they had oh what's his face? The pitcher from Clay Holmes, which I think he was out injured. Something like that. If they had those three, they weren't getting swept by the Astros. It would still be close. Your team is miles behind the Houston Astros, and it's not even funny. And you're too blind to see. While
What's
you're still,
ridiculous is it.
I'm on a rant. Don't cut off my rant. Save it.
All right.
Save it. You can talk about Volpe and you can talk about Peraza. As a Red Sox fan, I've heard about Volpe and Peraza for years now. Dominguez, all these players, I hear about them. Where are they? You know what the Astros did? They lost Carlos Correa and they had Jeremy Pena and he won the MVP of the World Series. You're holding on to Volpe when you could be flipping these guys because guess what? The rest of the world believes they're the next coming of Jeter and A-Rod and all these players because that's how much you talk about them and how much they're off the market and how much you can't talk about them. You know how many times we talk about Marcelo Myers? Very little. We keep him under wraps. We don't talk about him. We don't talk about the hope and the bring. Everybody's like, you're letting Bogarts go? We have a young guy underneath that we believe can be just as good or better. We're not talking about him. And then you're paying $25 million for fucking Josh Donaldson in third base. You have the audacity to scoff at IKF because he's got a batting average higher than 220 and he doesn't swing for the fences. It's called product. He wants to get on base. He may be a defensive liability at times, but holy hell, like name a guy that's not meant for New York. And like that's it. The fan base makes these players that have a shot at being good being awful. They have a guy that I like of Harrison Bader. Now he's a Yankee. He has to shave his beard, has to be this preppy looking kid that I fucking hate. That I hope he I'm get ready, Carlos Rodon. I hope you enjoyed the money. I hope you enjoyed signing the paychecks and paying New York taxes because the first fucking ball that goes over the center field wall and you lose a game and they just rip you to shreds and be like, oh, they interview the manager and be like, oh, you're gonna stick with Rodon? Well, yeah, we paid him that much money. Oh, but the fans are pretty upset about. No, we want Rodon until he's bad. We want Judge until he's bad. We want Carlos Dean until he's bad. You don't. This is baseball. There's ebb and flows. Literally, I had Jackie Bradley fucking Jr., but I wasn't calling for his head every game. Like, be a fan. Don't be a psychopath. You guys got your pitching staff was good. You were fourth in the major leagues in ERA, and you signed Rodon. Congratulations! Now you'll be two. Judge was your only offense. He was it. There were games that you had two hits, 1 run, and you won by a shutout because Judge put one over the wall. Go watch a video on YouTube. It's like 22 minutes long of like home runs that Judge had last season that were only home runs because of Yankee Stadium. And by the way, Yankee fans, the record for American League home runs is yours. The record for baseball is Barry Bonds at 73. I don't care if he did steroids. Rob Manfred still honors the record. You did nothing special. Sammy Sosa did it too. Mark McGwire did it. He's 10th all time or something. Shut up.
Are you okay?
I'm a lot better now. I hate this team, and they're so stupid.
Well, yeah. What's ridiculous is there's one thing that I hate more than the Yankees. Actually, well, if there's one thing I hate almost as much as the Yankees, it's teams that prospect hug. Like there's like nobody's business. If you prospect hug in today's league, you will lose. Imagine what you could have done if you sent Volpe and Dominguez to Cincinnati for Luis Castillo. Imagine if it was you who had Luis Castillo for 6 more years. You would have won at least 2 more games in that series against the Astros. You would have won one of Montas's disastrous starts. If you had LeMahieu, maybe that's another game. All of a sudden, you're in a 7-game series, all because you didn't prospect hug.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's infuriating when teams do that because they're holding on to potential that is just that. It's just potential. If you have a chance to make a franchise-changing trade for an established product that is rotting in a market that doesn't like them, make the move. Instead, you're going to throw money at a guy who's only had 2 good seasons in his entire career. It
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense, and it's why they will never win a pennant as long as the Astros are around and hot. And to be
Like,
honest, I would honestly I would take the Mariners over them this year. I think the Mariners could surpass the Yankees this year. If those two teams meet in the playoffs, I'm taking the Mariners. Why? Because they didn't prospect hug. They sent their 1, their 3, and their 5th ranked prospects to Cincinnati for Luis Castillo. And guess what? They're rewarded with 6 years of that motherfucker
but
because they
also
didn't.
Luis Castillo shoves every time against them too, and and
Yeah.
I hear the Yankees fans be like, "Oh God, why we got Frankie Montas? That's the guy we wanted. We got Frankie Montas. Look who we got."
And
And then he
and,
struggled.
and, and then
He struggled. Everybody
he
wanted
posts
to
a
execute.
6.35 ERA in his first 3 starts, and then he's now out for most of the season this year.
Like he they want to spend and spend and spend until they spend, and then they're not happy with who they spent for, and then they're pissed off about it. It's just it's a fan base that basically walks into a toy store when you're a child and be like, I want, and your parents go, okay, and then you get home and you realize the toy you got was a piece of shit. Like, you wanted it, asshole. Enjoy it. Enjoy the pinstripes. Enjoy men can't have beards or facial hair. Enjoy that you can't have long hair. Enjoy that you're uptight. It's the Yankee way. Enjoy all that shit, because all it's
The
going to get
Yankee
you.
way. The
You have
Yankee
not
way.
won a championship since '09. If we're counting rings, assholes, we have since '04, and I'll give you 2000 if you want. We're 2-4 right now. Like, you're no Astros have 2 championships. You can say they cheated on one and they got the other, but they proved last year, no buzzers, no cheating, no scandal. They owned your ass in 4 straight games, and it shows how far of a difference you've made since you met in 2017, where you claimed that they stole the ring from you, and to now it's 2022, and you got your ass swept out of the playoffs. And you have your head announcer going on live TV and saying, if we had Benintendi and if we had Jalen Mayhew, we probably wouldn't have. I wouldn't say we beat them, but we wouldn't got swept. You know how loser mentality that is that you claim for a team that, I don't know if they know this, but a team that had pretty much the same core that we had now won 2 games in the ALCS against them. We had 2 controlling leads. We put up 9 spots on their pitchers that you guys couldn't put runs up. And you want to claim that you're the champion? Go for it, buddy. We blew 28 saves last season. 28. We would have had almost a similar record to you fuckfaces. I can't wait till we meet this season in the Bronx. I hope we own your ass with a cookie cutter roster. You know what you should have done? Instead of paying Rodon money, you should have bought a shortstop. And then you could have flipped 2 of those prospects for Pablo Lopez or any pitcher out there that they're ready to shop around.
Luis Arias. They could have had Luis Arias, who would have been a perfect fit on that roster because no one on that roster, aside from Mayhew, is a better contact hitter than power hitter.
Yeah, you might want to put people on the boat, like on the spaces, to hit them in when Judge is up, instead of Judge being your only offense. You idiot. We're gonna go to the next team because I'll talk about them forever. I'm going to Astros. They're the best until you prove otherwise.
Yeah.
They're the best and proven otherwise. They won the World Series last year. They added Jose Abreu, which they lost Vasquez, and they lost Christian Vasquez, and they lost
They lost
Trey
Mancini
Mancini.
and Gurriel.
But even losing them, look at the squad they got. I mean, I trust this team to be rinse, cycle, repeat. And we didn't talk about it in the stadiums yet. Such a fun park overall. It is going to always be rocking. I think I can't say one negative. I don't like them, if I'm being honest. I don't like playing them, but it's not a hate. It's a more of a respect thing. Like, fuck, they got us again.
Like, finally, a worthy opponent.
Yeah, it's a worthy rivalry. I like showing up in that stadium. When we traded a Christian, and I knew our season was done. I was like, at least he has a shot to go win a ring. That's all I
And
said. I said I hate that how it handled the night of. It would happen right in front of our faces, but I said I enjoyed that he at least got a ring from him. So I don't need to say much about this team. Their first,
and the return was pretty sweet.
it does look good. It does look good. I was down on my luck, but I still don't understand how those two prospects are for a guy that was a rental. It just, but I'll take it. In Heim we trust. It's baseball. Who's your next? Unless you want to have anything to
I mean,
special
there's not
to
a
say
whole lot
about
to talk
this.
about.
Yeah, I agree.
They have one of the most terrifying 1-2 pitching combos in the league. Uh, in um, in Valdez and Javier. Javier, I mean, 2021 World Series was rough. Was rough. This year, he said "fuck you" to everyone, and became one of the best pitchers in the league. And it
He,
was pretty cool to
who's the
see.
pitcher that rocks? Is that who's the pitcher?
That's Garcia, and he he
But
he doesn't do that anymore.
I know, but still able to like pitchers are such creatures of habit and like knowing that routine and able to switch it now to and still be deadly as he's doing in spring training is I commend altogether because you can't rock the baby for that long to get that much into rhythm and now have to be a straight target. So I'm excited to see what happens, but he looks like he's got it under control, which is nice. Who's your next team you want to talk about?
How you doing on time?
I'd say we can go till the two if you're good with that.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
We'll do two more teams and call it a day.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's do.
I would not talk about one team, especially just a heads up.
Yeah, no, of course not. Let's do the Cardinals. Let's put them in
Okay,
plant mode.
where do you want them? End or
Below the Yankees.
okay?
This team is interesting. They had a very weird offseason, I would say. Hold on, I'm trying to find them on my list. They, they somehow, I don't know how, but they got Goldschmidt and Arenado for pennies on the dollar. There had to have been blackmail or
They
something.
got pennies. They got pennies to pay for him. It's crazy,
Yeah.
and he opted in.
Dumb move. Dumb move.
No, I love it. I love it. It's like a Jose Ramirez for the Guardians. I'd rather just play if you like a fan base and Missouri has great taxes compared to everywhere else. If you're just sitting
Uh,
there and you like want to just play, like St. Louis, say what you want. The city, the fan base loves Cardinal baseball. So at that point in time, you got the smart move. I would opt. He could have made way more, but
yeah.
opt in where the city you like and just say, "Hey, I'm just here to play baseball." I kind of like the move. It's kind of baller.
But yeah, the only major addition they had was Contreras, which is you're replacing Yachty's production. But all in all, I don't think that's a game changing move. It's just more of like a lateral, like oh, good
He's got
production.
more pop and he's younger and he can run a little bit
Well,
better than
yes,
Yachty.
because Yachty's knees would pop every time he would get up and squatting.
Sure.
But like, I think the only thing that gives me pause about this team is pitching. I don't know how far this rotation can take them off the back of Wainwright. I don't know if Flaherty is ever going to be the
The
pitcher
same.
he was. Um, this is
Michael.
another team that was really annoying in July because they could have had Juan Soto and Josh Bell, but they prospect hugged because Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, Nolan Gorman, these guys are the future. Now, I'll give them this. Gorman, very promising prospect. I do want to drug test him, though, because he looked very much like 2002 Bonds. It's
Nice.
a little concerning. But they have a lot of promising young prospects in the pipeline. I just don't think I think that the prospect hugging is going to come back to bite them at some point. Maybe not this year, but if they face the Padres in the playoffs, and Soto is the one that knocks them out, uh, uh, John Mozeliak is going to have a lot of angry fans at his door clamoring for his head, because those are the kinds of moves where you don't make that cost you championships. Um, they didn't do very well in division play last year against the Cubs and the Brewers, um, and but I still think they'll win the division because it's a lot more of a balanced schedule and less division heavy. Um, I again, I don't expect this team to do any better or worse than last year. Probably another 90-win season, but there is the possibility that they could at some point.
As somebody that lives in Missouri, I love going to Cardinal games. I enjoy the stadium. I like a lot of the fanfare. I love how passionate the team fans are. Um, they're always a division. I think it's going to be interesting because they have to play a lot more American League. Like all the national and all the American leagues are going to have to play a lot more like interleague play than they normally ever get to. So it's going to be true. Like they're going to get to play the Central of the AL plus the West. So we're going to have like Astros and Cardinals and Mariners card. Like it's going to be a fun little series that happen. So baseball is going to be a little bit more exciting. My viewpoint is I think the Cardinals will always be one of those teams that stick around and do this division. Again, prospect hugging I think is going to be really interesting if it pans off. Again, that's I've talked to Scully in depth like about our guy. Like I hope he's as great as advertised, but if we're holding on just because of the name and where we drafted him, I got to see him sooner than later. You know, same thing with like Tristan Scott. Those players, like I'm like, okay. Like I think we held on to Bobby a little too long, and now it's so hard to move Bobby Dahl back. Like those are those problems. So Cardinals, I think, interesting. I think they're playoff bound. I think they're not. So I think it's a. I think it's that division. I don't. I think the Brewers are falling back. I think the Cardinals, the Cubs are not there. I think both teams are fighting another team to love. So basically, cannon fodder. The last team I'll talk about, we'll close out with a big one. I think it's a big one for this one. I think it's really hard not to talk about them, but I'm going to put them up here. I don't know where. Maybe here. I don't know. I'll just leave them there. I don't know exactly where they
I,
said.
I think that's fine. Below Philly and Atlanta, that's fine.
I mean, their pitching staff is still good. It's old, but it's good as long as healthy. Their bullpen I think is a little questionable with Hader if Hader's rebounds and is as dominant as he always is, but they still have a good staff. And then I'll just mention Machado, Bogarts, Tatis, Soto. Or say what you will about the four. If anybody said, "Hey, these are four offensive bats to build around," I think most people would say, "Here, take my money." I just think they would. Like, I think, and then not to mention they have who's their center fielder? Oh fuck, Trent Grisham. Is that his name?
Yeah,
No, that's not. Him. Um, they still have Kim on their team, which I think is a strong bat playing second base. Um, this team just has everything going for it right now. A fan base behind him. Apparently, the Brinks truck ready to pull up and pie whoever they want. They just got that corner outfield. The corner infield is going to be 75 years old playing each other. Machado just re-signed for an extension. Bogarts is over there for the next 11 years. Tatis is there for a lot. They have to lock up Soto, but this season alone, tell me a 1 through 4 that you would not want to face in baseball, and I would circle this one in a heartbeat. I think it's and again Tatis if he comes back as a fraction of himself, I still think he's quality. The people that want to move on from Tatis, I think you're stupid. I think you're absolutely crazy. I think you're mad at the times or mad because he got busted for whatever he did. The dude still can rake. His defense is questionable, but his offensive bat is not within question at all.
Yeah, I think this team is. I mean, they're loaded. Their checkbook is currently doing lines of cocaine with Pablo Escobar.
I tell you about it. Good Lord.
But again, they added Bogarts. They added Nelson Cruz as well. So
I
there's
forgot
another
about
one.
that too.
They added Adam Engel as well, which gives them really good outfield depth. So it's not like they're suffering in any position. First base is probably going to be a platoon of guys who are learning the position. But as we learn in Moneyball, first base it isn't that hard.
Correct.
And then yeah, I think giving all that money to Yu Darvish through age 41 is a weird decision. But again, it's the Padres, so weird
Their
companies
whole
don't.
team is 40.
But again, I think guys like Darvish and Snell are the spotlight's going to be on them this year. Can they can they help this offense out at all, or is the majority of these games going to end up 10-8, 12-9, 13-10 games? That's going to be my biggest thing I'm watching. And then also Tatis, like obviously he's going to have a spot on this team, but the question is where.
Left field. Left field.
I'm not saying position wise. I'm just saying in in the lineup, or is Bob Melvin going to be like, hey, I have all these other guys that I can put in these spots, but because you're still coming off of what you came off of, I'm starting you lower than I normally would.
Tatis. I either Tatis or Bogarts 1-2. Soto 3. Machado 4.
I would probably do Tatis, Soto, Bogarts probably,
Either way, I don't think it matters.
but it's if he is not the player that he was pre-roids, then I think you need to have a conversation about his future. I think the people saying to move on from him now are crazy. But let's say it's the deadline and he's hitting like 214 and the power just isn't the same. Questions need to be answered, especially for a team that is committed this much to a title push. You need to remove all doubt from your roster.
No, I agree.
And if Tatis is part of that doubt, you need to make a move.
Yeah, I honestly think the NL playoffs are going to be way more interesting than the AL.
Oh yeah.
Because look at that. We've talked about 5 NL teams in the playoff bound and World Series contender versus 2, and then I don't see many more coming from the bottom. We'll talk about that later. We're gonna
I
call the
see
show
maybe
tonight.
one or two more
We're
in
gonna
the
call the
contender bracket.
yeah, right, absolutely. We're gonna call the show tonight. We'll be back probably next week to talk about the rest of it. Where we'll talk about the rest of the stadiums and we'll talk about the rest of the teams here. Again, what I will say is we'll be live tweeting games. Follow us on Over the Wall Pod. If you again, we didn't have any live viewers during the episode, but comment on the video. Let us know who your favorite players. Tell us where we're wrong, and if you're a Yankee fan, I don't want to hear it. Basically, where I put that at. But yeah, follow us there. We'll be talking baseball all year long. We'll be live betting. We'll be talking about stuff. So again, love baseball. If you're looking for World Baseball Classic, this is probably the wrong podcast to follow because I don't know how much we'll be actually watching. But overall, the baseball when 2023 starts, we will be heavily involved. So on that note, everybody have a great night. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.